Hey everyone, this is the Mabon Sabbat Live. Thank you so much for catching the replay, whether it's here on Facebook or over on YouTube. I greatly appreciate it. You can comment throughout the live as if it was happening live, or you can just drop comments at the end if it's on YouTube, and I will check out all of your comments. I am a couple minutes early on the live, so I'm going to give it a minute to let people hop in. I'm going to try to tag everyone. Sometimes it does the tag, sometimes it doesn't. Often for me it doesn't. Okay, it's not going to do it. That's okay, we'll just give it a minute. I don't know if I can see comments or not yet, so I will give it a minute. I do see Carol's profile picture, so that's promising. Oh my gosh! Hey Carol! Thank you. I can see comments. I'm so glad that my phone is showing me comments. I didn't want to deal with that. I am doing pretty good today. Just chilling, doing some cleaning, hanging out with family earlier. And I am a couple minutes early. I just wanted to get on like 2 minutes early to give people some time to hop in. Hey Haley. Does anybody have any Mabon plans coming up? How has everybody's day been today? Figure we'll just chat for a minute to allow people some time to hop in. Today's live probably won't be super long. Just the right amount of time to give you all the information, but not too long to not take up too much of your time. I have this shirt. I have this necklace on today, and I always like showing you guys the candles that I picked for the live. So we have an orange candle, we have a brown candle, we have a gold candle, and we have a yellow candle. Carol says she is going to bake, and then the apple blessing spell. What are you going to bake? Atina, you are not late. I'm early. I try to start my lives like 2 to 3 minutes before my live time, just to give people some time to hop in. And also because usually for like 10 minutes before the live, I'm just sitting here in my chair just like twiddling my fingers waiting to be able to talk to you guys, because I get like anxious right beforehand, like not like anxious bad, but like anxious excited, and so I'm oftentimes just sitting here, so then sometimes I started a couple minutes early. Haley says today has been gray and rainy, cold, no complaints though. Today for me was like really sunny until boom, all of a sudden I'm outside looking at the flowers, thunder crackles, it like pours down rain for 30 minutes, goes away, and it's sunny again. So no complaints on that. The flowers needed water. I literally said that it looks like the flowers need water, and I walked over to look at something else in the yard, and I was going to go back and then water them, and that's when it started raining. So can't complain. Haley says, not sure what I'm going to do for Mabon yet. May bake some goodies, go to the park or something. My son has a doctor appointment that day, so I'll have to plan around that. Well, hopefully maybe you can stop by a park or something afterwards, or bake some little goodies to have a little snack, a little reward for the doctor appointment. I'm going to go ahead and get started. So welcome in, everybody, to the Mabon Live. Misty says it was 80 and hot and that heat can go away, but not quite ready for rain yet. I agreed. I was done with the heat. Carol says apple twist wreath type things. You use the already ready pastry, apples, brown sugar, and cinnamon. That sounds good. Too bad we're not neighbors, Carol. I'd pop over and have some yummy baked goods. Haley says, dang, the universe was listening. Yes, she was listening. But like I mentioned, this is the Mabon Live, and it is continuing the Wheel of the Year series throughout 2025, so we've done all the sabbats so far. Last month was Lunasa, and next up will be Samhain after this one. So let's hop into some sabbat basics. We're going to go over the background, like what, why, when, etc. So What is Mabon? It's the autumn equinox, marking a time of balance with equal day and night hours, celebrating the second harvest and the transition to autumn. So when is the Sabbat in the Northern Hemisphere? It is September 22nd, and then celebrated usually between September 20th and September 23rd, but kind of like varies between the year. But this year, September 22nd. And then in the Southern Hemisphere, it's March 20th or March 21st. Why is Mabon a holiday? It is representation of the equal length of day and night of the year. It like marks the coming of the dark half of the year when the days are going to become shorter and the nights are going to become longer. And it is the celebration that is the feast before like the preparation for winter. So the first harvest would be Lunasta, which we talked about previously, and then Mabon is sort of like the last big like binge feast where you can like have a bunch of food that you can have before you have to like start saving everything that you have for winter. So like a successful harvest and like a successful Mabon would be where you can have enough to have a really big feast, and then also know that your family is going to make it through all of like the winter season if we're looking at it like older times. So it sort of like marks that like, hey, I'm gonna have enough food to get me through that half of the year. So let's dive into some history. So the time frame is where we're gonna kind of start. Mabon is between the start of Lunasta, the 1st of August, and Samhain, and between Samhain. So it's like kind of like split by seasons, okay? Cross-quarter days is where we're referencing. Many civilizations have celebrated a harvest festival around the equinox, traditionally the early to mid-September harvest full moon. You're gathering as many remaining crops before like autumn rains start coming in, and like the farming is not going to be as good because like I mentioned, you're getting all of like the last big amounts of like abundance and crops and stuff in before we're going into the colder seasons. And if you can hear my cat meowing in the background, I'm sorry. She is mad that I shut my door, but she's not coming in because then she's just going to come in and meow in here, and that's going to be too much. So she got lots of pets beforehand. She is doing okay. The equinox is a time for giving thanks. It's the time of year when people, like I mentioned, know how well their summer crops did, how well their animals were fed, and it determines whether or not your family is going to, like I mentioned, have enough food to last through that winter, because you're not growing your crops in your fields during winter. The celebration. So just talking about the celebration of Mabon in general is Mabon is celebrations are symbolized by the horn of plenty, the cornucopia, also the humble apple. Those are like two that you're going to like really see a lot. The cornucopia acts as a metaphor for a healthy harvest, while its shape symbolizes the fundamental characteristics of like male and female. The apple, on the other hand, symbolizes the fruit of the harvest, and as it's like the apple is also in season, it's representing also for healing, renewal, regeneration, and also immortality. Fun fact, because I like fun facts. Cut an apple with right down the middle, and it reveals the little pentagram with like the seed area. The pentagram representing the different elements of earth, air, fire, water, and spirit on each of its 5 points. So it's a fun little thing with apples. So let's chat about the different cultures for just a minute. Not all encompassing, just a few. In the 1700s, the Bavarians, part of present-day Germany, began a festival that starts in the last week of September. They call this festival Oktoberfest, and it is still celebrated in Bavaria today. And then also the original American Thanksgiving was celebrated on October 3rd, which makes more sense with harvest times, because if you think about it, by the end of November, you're not having a lot left to harvest. So if you're looking at like where the traditional American Thanksgiving is held in very late November, thinking like around like November 25th, November 26th, November 27th, so forth, because it changes. The fourth Thursday of November. By that time, we're getting close to December. We're deeper into the cold months. We're not harvesting crops. We're like eating based off of what we already have stored, canned, etc. And so that wouldn't be a time that would make a lot of sense to have like a full blown on feast. But if you think about it, early in October is still, it's not farther into the colder months. So it's still a little bit more feasible then. So, Haley says, I just learned about that. It was pretty cool to find that out. Yeah, I thought it was super cool too. I think I actually learned about the cutting the apple in half and the shape that it made was in school. They didn't teach us that it was a pentagram, obviously, but it was for like some festival thing that we were doing. I don't even remember. I was really little, but regardless, I remember that they were talking about cutting the apple in half and like you could use it. I think we were using it to like make prints or something. I don't know. Too long ago, but that was when I first had heard about it. So, moving into where did the name Mabon come from? More on the lore side. So the word Mabon wasn't applied to the autumn equinox until the 1970s. Several of the holidays on the Wheel of the Year already held Gaelic-derived names, and so it was kind of like being directly pulled from the existing pagan practices. That's where we're getting the name, such as Imbolc, Beltane, Lughnasadh, Samhain. The exception here, though, would be Yule, which is Germanic in origin, Austria and Lithia. Those also don't follow suit with that. But anyways, because those celebrations known as like equinoxes or solstices. But anyways, the reason we picked Mabon, was partially to do with tying it into the rest of them. When it comes to renaming the autumn equinox, Aidan Kelly was inspired by the Greek myth of Persephone being whisked away by her mother Demeter and living in the underworld for half of the year. This caused her mother, a goddess of agriculture, harvest, and grain, such immense grief from her that formed her to turn into a barren and lifeless, thus creating the seasons of autumn and winter. So again, why the name Mabon? The only Celtic story that somewhat fits this archetype tale relating to the celebration of Mabon was that of a Welsh god called Mabon ap Modron, which is spelled Mabon space AP space Modron, which was stolen from his mother when he was only 3 nights old and imprisoned in a underwater dungeon where no one had seen or heard of him since. Between Mabon ap Modron, what I spelled a minute ago because I know I'm not saying that right, and the season of autumn at all, it's like I was talking about from Aidan Kelly. I hadn't heard of that, to be honest, until I was researching into this, and so I only pulled a little bit of that. I do have 3 links where I was reading a good bit about it that I'm going to drop into the live afterwards, because I don't want to sit here and tell you the whole story because I'm not really familiar with it myself, so I'm not going to pretend to be. But when I was trying to research why we chose that name, that was what I was reading. So I'm going to share that with you just so you can sort of dive into that too. Here's another reason that I found was that Mabon derives from the Mabon. I know I'm saying that wrong too, but that was the best pronunciation I could think of. I'm going to spell it. Mabinogion. A collection of 14th century stories written in Middle Welsh compiled from texts found in 2 late medieval manuscripts, the Red Book of Hergest and the White Book of I'm not even going to try. Rhyddderch. That was just a little bit that I found. I didn't dive super into that one. And then here's another story that, or tale that you can dive into on your own, would be the tale of Calwick and Olin, and I'll put those names and a link that could get you started on researching onto that. again, not end all be all, but those are 3 or 4 different places that the name could have derived from. So let's go away from that and go into other cultures again. The autumn equinox was celebrated by Greek people in multiple ways. In ancient Athens, I'm going to try to pronounce this, Ostiarphia. I don't think that's spelled right, but I'm really bad at pronouncing Greek things. I'm going to be so for real. It's spelled Oschophoria. It was the name of the Grape Harvest Festival held in what would be modern day late September. This festival was sacred to Greek god of wine. Men would carry grape heavy vines throughout the town in procession, followed by drinking, singing, and the general celebration. And then there are also early day celebrations from other places in Athens, tying back to Demeter and Persephone again, like I was talking about earlier. So there are lots of different festivals from lots of different places throughout different parts of time that sort of like all gather up to what is modern day Mabon and things that we do. So a lot of the celebrations, the foods, the music, the symbols, things like that, they're all deriving from all these different places, kind of in like a Mod Podge together of what we have today. So the zodiac association would be the sun entering Libra. Some different symbols, the cornucopia, horn of plenty, mentioned that earlier. Baskets symbolizing the gathering of the harvest and fruits of the labor. Sickles and scythes, tools that are used in harvest and gathering of crops. Seasonal foods, which I'm not going to get into now because I'm going to talk about that a lot more later. Autumn leaves representing the changing of the cycles of life and death. Acorns and pine cones, which are seeds of future growth. Also, it ties back into the cycles of life and death and connecting to nature. Scales and balances, representing the equal length between day and night during equinox. There are lots of different types of spell work that you can do during Mabon, but some good ones that are usually done during this time could be gratitude and abundance spells, balance and reflection spells, protection and security spells, ancestor-related spells and rituals. This is also a good time for divination and a good time for shadow work. Different colors would be reds, oranges, golds. Those are all going to be representing the fading of summer light, the warmth of the harvest. And then we have like browns, which is going back to like the earthy tones, being grounded, soil of the harvest. And then greens with, the continuation of, the harvest and tying back to the earth, back to the crops. And then also the dying back of the green foliage going into winter. So what are some deities? We have the ones that I already mentioned earlier that we were talking about. We also have the Green Man, Cernunnos, Freya, and then a couple more. But let's go into herbs and flowers. I like this part. We have sage, rosemary, marigolds. Marigolds was one of the flowers I was looking at outside today because I'm trying to get some of the seeds from any of the ones that have like dried up. Chamomile, lavender, cinnamon, another favorite, love cinnamon, frankincense, sunflowers, thistle, myrrh, yarrow, ivy. Some incense and oils, obviously any of the ones that we already listed above, and cedarwood. I love cedarwood. Clove, chamomile, jasmine, juniper, thyme. Crystals and stones. I know another favorite. Moss agate, citrine, carnelian, lapis lazuli, hematite, red jasper, tiger's eye, aventurine, amber, opal, sandstone, sunstone, rhodonite, amethyst, clear quartz per usual. Foods. Okay, so we were talking about foods earlier. So as we mentioned a lot at the beginning of the live, baked goods is a big one. Also apples, we also talked about that. Grapes and wine, remember we talked about that. Ties back to what we were mentioning. Ciders, root vegetables. Like, think pumpkin, squash, gourds. And then we also have corn, grains, and seeds. Think like generic, like harvest type food is really what you're going to tie back to. Some different animals, the dog, wolf, coyote, squirrel, fox, stag, goose, salmon, eagles, and hawks. Think birds of prey. Owls, blackbirds, crows, and butterflies. Some different ways to celebrate. I know performing rituals and spell work is one, and I know Carol is doing a, she mentioned it in the chat. Let's see if it lets me do that. Apple blessing spell. Carol's going to do a live on that. But yeah, spells and rituals in general. Creating a Mabon altar, hosting a feast, enjoying seasonal foods, spending time in nature walks, picnics, camping. Maybe you're just sitting outside and just reflecting on the leaves changing color and noticing like the fall winds picking up. Hey, Ellen. Expressing gratitude and reflecting. You can do this with letters. You can do this with meditating. You can just make lists. You can just think about it. Bonfires, lighting candles, fire safety, that's important. Preparing for winter, decluttering spaces, cleaning spaces, canning food. Sort of thinking like closing up the summer and the spring seasons and like opening shop for fall and winter, really getting your home prepared for that. You can also do volunteering and donating. That could even just be volunteering, like your time, donating your time, donating any clothes that you don't need, whatever it is, you know what I mean. There are also lots of Mabon games. Apple Magic is one of the traditional games played during Mabon. The idea is to see how long you can keep a single length of the skin peel while you're peeling an apple before it drops to the floor. And the shape will resemble a letter of sorts. And, you know, people say that the letter could be the first initial of your true love's name. But some people just do it to where you see who can get the longest. If you're peeling an apple and you're going around it, you can get the skin off, and you can see how much skin that you can get off in one go, but have to start a new one. So I did also make a tarot spread for you guys for Mabon, because I really do like making tarot spreads. It's a 5-card tarot spread. Card number 1, what has grown for you this year? Card 2, what is abundant in your personal harvest? Card 3, what should you enjoy and keep going into the fall? Card 4, what things should you leave behind or give away? And card 5, what should you be thankful for this Mabon? And then I also have a Sabbat challenge, optional of course, but I would challenge you to complete a gratitude journaling page, simply just listing out things that you're grateful for. That can be a list of 3 things or a list of a bunch of things, but even just taking time to acknowledge 3 things that you're grateful for could be a way to participate in Mabon with low effort. Haley says the weather and leaves have begun changing here already, and Ellen says that she loves bonfires. Ellen says, what was card 3 again? Card 3 was, what should you enjoy and keep going into fall? Haley says, I will do that. Awesome. If you do the Sabbath challenge, or if you do the tarot spread, feel free to drop it in the comments and let me know how it goes. You don't have to drop your page or your tarot spread in the comments, but you can drop that you did it in the comments and how it went for you. The next Sabbath live, I'm pretty sure, is October 26th. I'm pretty sure. But it's for Samhain. And it will be around the same time as this one. And I'm really excited for that one too. I will forewarn, in Samhain, I'm not going to go as deep into the history and lore in certain aspects. I'm going to go deep into the history, but not super deep into the lore, because I have already done a live. going into really in depth into some different stories. So there'll be a lot of aspects during that live that I'm going to call back to my previous live. So if you haven't seen the previous live related to Samhain before that one, I would recommend checking it out because I am going to relate back to that one a lot. But if you haven't watched it, it's not going to be a big deal. I'm just not going to go super detailed into some of the stories. But I'm still going to give everything else that I've been doing throughout this Sabbat series. If anybody has any Mabon related questions, I will totally answer them for you. And no worries, Carol, that's okay. That is all the information I have for you today, though. Like I told you, I try to keep these Sabbat lives short and sweet to just give you, like, a real basic introduction. I don't go too in detail because I want you to be able to sort of go off on that journey in your own. Carol says, do you have any plans for Mabon? I am going to definitely bake something. What I bake is really a toss-up at this point. And then I do always do a gratitude page, a journaling page. I don't just list a couple things I'm grateful for, though. I usually try to write like a whole page front and back, just like really talking about things I'm grateful for and I'm glad about, because it's really good to pull back time for that. And then I don't have a feast, but I have a really intention-based meal. So whatever I'm going to eat for dinner that night, when I'm preparing it, I'm going to put a lot of energy and a lot of thought into it. And then whenever I go to eat it, I'm going to be doing the same thing. Let's see. Gina says, so far you were giving so much good info. Thank you. I sometimes struggle with some of the names when getting into the history, but I really like it also because it challenges me to sort of like dive deeper, and I love to find you guys just like quick points that you can like fly off into your own research with. Haley says, thank you for sharing so much about Mabon. I love sharing about the Sabbats. Gina says, what is your favorite thing about Mabon? My favorite thing about Mabon is, okay, one, I love fall. I really do. Like, think like fall festivals, like harvest festivals. I really love doing those. Also, it's going to sound funny, I love baking apple pies, but I don't like eating them. So I will make the crust and the filling and everything from scratch, but since I don't like eating them, when I make the pie, I will gift it to somebody that I love or I care about. And so it's a way that I can, one, I can do like the baking, and two, it can just take some time to really make something for somebody else and give it to them. So I really enjoy doing that. My grandpa is often the receiver of those pies because he likes apple pies. Misty says, thank you so much for the info. You're welcome. Ellen says, sounds lovely. And then Carol says, I usually do apple crumble, but I was looking forward to doing the apple wreaths. I've done apple crumble before. I think apple crumble is really good. I really like eating it with whipped cream. Delicious. Carol says, if there's anything in the Samhain info about the Celtic look up. Yeah, I know. The thing is, it's going to sound embarrassing a little bit, but I do, all the names before I go live, I do look them up, and I do listen to how people say them, and in my notes, I have in brackets pronunciation on how to say them. I'm just bad at that. I'm really bad at that. That is, that's not my strong suit. Pronouncing things, not my strong suit. Even if I actually know a little bit of the language, I'm still bad at it. That's why I apologize in advance. Certain ones I don't even try, and I always spell it for you guys right afterwards because I just know it's not happening. I don't know. My brain just doesn't like me like that. Misty says, I hope you share pics of your apple wreath creation. Yeah, Carol, you should put your pictures of your apple wreaths either in the comments here or put them in Whoa, or both. But that's just because I always love seeing pictures of food that people bake and also crafts that people make. I also think making like wreaths in general is something that you can do. I feel like making wreaths in general can tie into a lot of seasons, though. You can make them like really seasonal based. Ellen says it's hard. Different languages use different muscles in your mouth, and that may or may not be developed. Yeah, that explains it, because sometimes when I'm trying to pronounce the words, it's like quite literally I don't know how to move my mouth in the proper way to get the sounds to come out right. And there are certain words that even in English, sometimes my southern accent does me dirty when I'm trying to say them and they don't come out well. Not really important, but at work and at certain places in public, I will have people ask me, like, where are you from? Because sometimes I just have a hard time saying things. Talking is hard. But now I'm rambling, and so I don't want to keep you guys any longer. So I hope everybody has a really good Mabon. I hope that you can have some time to reflect on things that you're grateful for, things that are abundant in your life, and even if you're feeling like you don't have a lot of things that are going well or that you don't have anything that's abundant in your life, if you just take a moment and reflect on the fact that you're here, you're doing it, you're doing the damn thing, you're doing good, give yourself a pat on the back, and just at the end of the day, at least appreciate that you're still there for yourself. And so I hope everybody has a great rest of their night. Blessed be everybody, and I will see you in the next live.